Tonight, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then it's followed by a prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you today just for your loving mercy, all that you have done in our hearts and our lives. Father, for the sacrifice that you made for us. Lord, tonight we just pray that you would be in this place, that you would give us wisdom to help serve this community, the children and the staff, the parents, Lord, to the best of our ability. Lord, we just pray that you would just give us that knowledge and that all that we do will glorify you. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jeff. Future board meetings, August 27th, September 10th, and September 24th, all here at 6 o'clock. There's a couple of revisions to the agenda, just in the HR, some additions. Under recognition, public recognition, we have some donations. We have a recommendation to approve a $3,575 donation to volleyball. And I have a list of all the names that have donated. I'm not going to give the amounts just for time. And I'm going to go down through that list. Jennifer Dranzik, Brainerd Snow Removal, Shepherds, Lindsay Swihart, Rodney and Andrew Burke, trained Stacy Bear, JoJo Olfactory, Dennis and Diana Siders, Kevin and Jolene Bear, Thorn Insurance, Kyra and Tricia Oswald, Devin Ron Schinkel, John and Susan Martin, Kim and Jay Custer, Larry Hoffman, Tresca Brothers Excavating, Still Remains Jewelry, Hoosier Chiropractic LLC, Jason and Jennifer Warnock, John and Lisa Lawyer, Gideon Law Office, Wabash County Truck Wash, Hoffman Family Farms, Atlas Building Services, Builders Mart, Hoffman's Nursery, AgriChem, Beacon Credit Union, Friarmood Tire, Zoomers RV, K&J Dale Farms, Transform Consulting Group, Grandstaff Hinken, McKillop Seeds, John and Janet Shue, Mitch and Shauna Meyer, Eads and Son Bulldozing, Gott and Son Asphalt, Wabash County Sheriff's Department, and First Farmers Bank and Trust. Sure appreciate all those supporting Northford Volleyball. Can I get a recommendation to approve that?
Gladly make the motion to approve that, Scott.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to approve the donation of $3,575 to Northfield Volleyball. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. School recognition. Have we started that yet?
Not yet, but we
Okay.
will be now since we're in the 5th day of school. We'll talk about that later. So.
All right. Well, Dana, got a presentation and updates on the project that we're doing.
We do, thank you very much. This will still be somewhat of a kind of a high level presentation because to start getting into the weeds, I won't get you home till 3 a.m. So we've been through, I wouldn't call it a page by page with all of our drawings with administrators and contractors, but we did go through better part of the day, going through all the mechanical, electrical systems, all the finishes. So feel like it's been a pretty straight line, other than some of the alternates we've had. So if I can, I'll just jump right into it tonight. If you have a question, please interrupt me. I won't be upset by that. I'll take care of it right away. We'll jump right into Metro North. As usual with our drawings, north is typically up on the plans. The existing building will be in some shade of gray, and a lot of whatever we're working on is in blue. So for here, the existing building's gray. For reference, you kind of see on the screen it looks white. It's actually just a lighter gray. That piece that winds up through the middle, that's the main entrance as you'll walk up to Metro North. So On the left side of that, you see a light blue. That's the existing multi-purpose room, for lack of a better term, the gym, cafeteria, where you come in. So we're renovating that space, and we're adding on to the south end of it. And if you'll note, the very bottom right-hand corner of that addition, the southeast corner, there's a door pops out there, and you see a little sidewalk pop out. That actually wraps around the building sign and goes out to the front parking lot. So that's an access or an egress from that space that it's never had. You always had to go back out into the hallway. So, please, sir. What we're doing is creating a space so that lunch can occur simultaneously with phys ed or any other program in there. The tables can stay up. You won't have to take them down every day and put them back up. You won't have to be quite so aggressive on getting the floor clean right away before the kids are running and having potentially wiping out in front of themselves. What we're physically doing in that space, you can see a little line that runs horizontally just a little bit below the word dining. We're going to hang a curtain like you'd see in a gym, not the prettiest thing, but it will physically divide between an area where the kids sit and eat and the area where the kids can have PE class. You don't have to leave it down. You can roll it up if you want to, so it's a big open space, but there's not a whole lot else we can put in there because that frame goes up and down and around, and even the west side of the space and the east side of the space, the walls are different heights. So it's just kind of hard to do much else. We're going to paint the entire space to help brighten it up. All new lights, they'll be LED, so hopefully we brighten that space quite a bit. And everything we do in the existing space extends out into the new. There'll be multi-purpose athletic flooring in there, and it has basically a wood grain appearance to it. So it's made to act as a dining space, as a PE space. So should give you a little more flexibility or a little more cushion in PE, but still hold up to the tables and chairs. And by the way, Mrs. Moore has heard all this and approved all of our finishes. We're clearing out the dressing rooms that existed on the right side of that, on the east side. There were two little offices, or an office and a storage room there, and the dressing rooms behind it. We're actually clearing all of it out. And over the office and storage room, we're going to put a mezzanine and set air handlers up there. So the last air handlers in this building that are still original serve this space. We're going to get rid of those. They'll be gone. We'll have two new air handlers that sit in this space that come through the wall. Duct runs up, down the middle of the space, and then branches out to the sides in each of the bays. So help control the air in here a little better. It won't all blow from the north end to the south and get about halfway down the room and just fall. That end's hot and this end's cold. It should distribute a little better. In the process of doing all that, we clean out the toilets, the showers, and make a functional storage space for that room. And what has been a little storage space in the far southwest corner becomes the new PE office. Teacher said she only uses it to check her emails once or twice a day, so it didn't need to be very big, just a place to sit in. So that's what we're doing there. As you looked in at the building, we wanted, since we were coming south, we wanted to do our best to maintain the integrity of that design. That's a pretty sort of iconic image of that building, is that wall. So our problem is we can't match the brick. We have been trying like the Dickens, and we're still trying, but rather than get close but not match it, we decided to go with an ashlar pattern stone. So it's obviously different, intended to be different. We thought it might open up some space. If we can still find a brick that comes relatively close, we'll keep the brick pier that's at the far back where the building addition starts. We'll keep that as stone and then put brick in the walls on the east and the west side. Just right now, the stone's a little overwhelming for me. But we keep it on the front of the building. Again, so it's different. This is new, it's an addition. It's not the full width of the existing space, it's the width of the court space, the PE space. So this one is more in line and with everything else. A lot of folks thought the whole thing was symmetrical, but it's not. So, but our addition will be. You see the windows in front similar to what they currently have. The difference here will be the first two panels from the ground up are basically opaque. And behind them will be a block wall. So from the inside, you'll see a block wall that goes up about 10 feet. And then the windows above. So we can put a wall pad on there too for if you actually do play basketball and somebody has a hard layup and gets crashed into the wall. I don't think that's happened too much because the glass hasn't broken very often, I suppose. So that's what we're taking care of there. Any questions on Metro North? Well, you can see right there, you can see that door in the image too, and the sidewalk kind of wraps around the building sign and out to the parking lot. So
If that's gonna be an in and out, or especially if you're gonna this there, do we need a canopy or anything on that, or?
Mrs. Moore had said she might consider using that to dismiss kids at the end of the day. Because you could hold them in the gym and then dismiss them out.
So would we need a canopy over that door because of weather things happening?
We can consider one. We haven't talked about it. We really just viewed it as an emergency.
If it's an exit door, I don't mind that, but if you're gonna be using it as a functional door,
I think we would probably just use it more as an emergency exit.
that would be fine.
We might have PE class dismissed, like whoever has PE last minute could exit through there to buses, but not school wise.
Okay, we'll shift down to Northfield now. So this is our base plan with one alternate bid, and it's alternate bid number 2, the tennis court parking lot. If not accepted, where the tennis court lot is shown is where the contractor is putting down stone anyways to use for staging of materials and a lot of the stuff that goes into construction. You will have stone there. We'll just have them take it back up. If the alternate is not taken as well, what does get paved around the north side of the building will mimic what's there. The drive comes around in one row of parking off the north side. So note that our addition is going where the shop classrooms previously were. They're gone now. They're working the dirt pretty hard out there. We've not shown the Sharp Creek building on here for tonight's purposes. You folks all know where it is. It's just to the west and generally to the south of the addition. We are showing the tennis court in its new configuration, the 6 courts up there. They used to be 3-over-3 over to the trees on the left side. The blue circle and the little square kind of in the top and the middle, that will be the reservoir and the pump house for your fire protection and sprinkler system. We'll be using the existing well to fill a tank that the pump then pulls from when it needs it for fire protection. And that tank is sized based on the building and the sprinklers to run for some predetermined amount of time. And we've worked with fire protection consultants to get a pretty good feel for what that is. I think that one is about 25 feet in diameter, and typically those things run about 15 to 20 feet tall. So just see one driving down the road, they look a lot like a galvanized grain pin. So not entirely out of place for the setting one.
Was there a reason being that that would be placed further north then? I guess we've never discussed this. The distance pumping is an issue. It needs to be so close to the new construction.
It is, but to move it a little bit north wouldn't be a big deal. We can't get past that dotted line running through there. We get into the issue of pushing and shoving dirt in a floodplain. And that seemed to be adding cost to your project that you didn't need. So that was how we kind of landed on that spot.
Well, I'm just curious the size of that and where you want it out of the way to why not north edge of the property.
we could push it another 10 feet north. That would probably be about it.
So it could not go west of the softball field?
Actually, that line that runs through there, I'm trying to remember, that might not be, the floodplain gets into us. But I do know the floodplain, as we hit west of the soccer field, the line turns south and comes way down. Because we talked about putting different things west of the soccer field, and quickly we're told that ain't gonna happen. In the base bid, we're keeping the existing playground. We originally talked about building a new one, but as this whole thing kind of went on, the existing one works where it is. So we thought, okay, we'll wait and see where the money comes in on bid day, and you'll see a new playground shown later. So the way the pavement is shown, the car loop permits circulation very similar to the current pattern. So you don't really have to change what folks are used to unless you want to. Likewise, buses occupy an area down there, that's similar in location to where they've always been. They've always been between the buildings. Now they're adjacent to both buildings. Okay, thank you, sir. So on this one, the difference begins with the building addition itself. You see what happens to the floor plan if we add the third court in the gym. Currently, our base plan has 2 basketball courts, 2 volleyball courts. This adds a third court in this option by alternate. It also adds a wrestling ring by a different alternate. It's only, however, that basketball court addition that generates the change in the drive going around. It pushes the drive further north and takes away some of the parking. If alternate bid 6, which is that basketball court, is not accepted, none of the other alternates would prevent you from taking the tennis court parking lot. What page here? There it goes. So the wrestling room is alternate number 5, and don't let the numbers dissuade you. There is no priority. You don't have to take 5 before you take 6, before you take 7. You can take any of them in any order. The only 2 that are in conflict are 2 and 6, because you can't have the tennis court parking lot and the third basketball. Alternate 7, notice the area just below the tank reservoir up there. That is a smaller playground area, but it crosses less traffic. Instead of going across the parking lot, you're only crossing the road. And alternate 3 creates a larger staff lot on the west side of the building. So those are the physical alternates you see relative to the site, depending on, we'll have all those on bid day. And right now, all the alternates are written. The base bid will be your lowest number, and all of the alternates will add additional work and additional cost. So when you start getting the numbers on your bid day, that's how they're all set up right now. Okay, sir, thank you. As you come around the north side of that building from the east, this is what you see. We saw a preliminary version of this a few weeks ago. This is a little more developed and further along. We've tried to be somewhat judicious in our use of brick, but it is almost a dead match to the brick on the west end of the building of the high school and the brick on the last addition that's now become the weight room at the north side of the building. So it matches up pretty well. We felt really good about that when we've used it in that wainscot all the way around at the ground, and then as accent panels run vertically in the building. You can't see it very well, but the addition does generally have a pitched roof. It's a 2 and 12 standing seam metal. And we're seeing that being in that sort of darker gray color that you also see on the fascia and the soffit. Our fascia and soffit panels are a flush panel. And that gray We're trying to match up with the darker gray of the ethos that you did a couple summers ago on the building, and we updated all that so that this addition ties into the high school in that sense. We had two colors that we were picking from with the metal siding, depending on what the sunlight's doing. If it's early morning and it's kind of dappled, one was the perfect match. And bright afternoon sun, the other was the perfect match. So when it's time to select them, we'll stick it, and somebody can draw it out of the hat. There. The horizontal panels on the building are metal. That's what covers most of your walls. We're showing that rib panel in the middle as a darker gray, more ribs. The panels that span between the windows, kind of top and bottom, that's a lighter color now. We were shown that as a flat panel, but I gotta confess, I'm getting cold feet. We actually showed it in the drawings as a rib panel also. We just had a project similar to this down by Monroeville, and panels came out, and the manufacturer's got to replace them all because we got some terrible oil canning. And I thought, okay, the manufacturer's taking care of it. Do we really even want to take that chance? Let's get it right the first time. So I would suggest we add the rib pattern that you see in the piece in the middle is all the way across. We just have some change in color, top and bottom. If it starts that way, nobody's ever going to think differently. You'll notice we've got blue. We use that in 3 spaces, the 2 entrances on the back of the building and the one on the front, the main entrance. That's the only place we use the blue. Just again, trying to be judicious and help people understand that's an entrance, because hopefully your eyes drawn to it. And then the gym, which is the piece you see on the left side, that's still a vertical metal building panel. It comes from the metal building manufacturer, and without adding another subset of framing behind it to change it to horizontal, that just seemed like a cost we didn't need to absorb, and most folks aren't going to care. Depending on what manufacturer we get and what the panels are, we can probably come really close to matching that lighter gray that we're going to have on the rest of the building just as a standard color. The darker grays can be a little tougher, might require a premium color or a custom color. So we'll continue to work through that with the manufacturer and see where we get it. If we can get the darker gray at no cost, that's what I'd recommend. If it comes with the cost, then we'll come back and talk to you about it, see what you want to do. The lighter gray would actually made up pretty well with the metal on the varsity gym. So I don't see it being a big problem, whichever one you end up picking. So that's what we're looking at the outside of the building from the north side. So this is a master plan of the building. Again, kind of highlighting the alternates. You can see in the gym 2 courts with the track around. The one on top is the alternate court, where it says alternate bid 5. That's the wrestling room. That's a 1-story space. And we ended up being 1 story and only going to the end of the base bid building for several reasons. If you want me to go into that, we'll get coffee after the meeting. And then alternate bid 4 is one we haven't talked about with you folks a lot. That's the east gym, one that's got the synthetic floor. There we are taking a bid to replace all the finishes. I don't think I do. We're looking at the flooring, painting the walls, taking the ceiling out, cleaning up what's above it, and painting that, leaving it exposed. And then that will require us, when the ceiling comes out, the walls aren't so pretty above it, so we've got to cover that part of it back up with the wall. And the darker gray piece you see wrapped around these, Jim, that's the locker room and wrestling room that hopefully will get done before this project is. Next one, sir. I shouldn't be funny, but it's getting. So the upper floor master, we have the classrooms you see on the 2nd story to the west. You're seeing the upper part of the main gym. That eve height on that gym is 34 feet. So you can play volleyball in there all day. You're not going to get too many courts there or volleyball structures that give you that much clearance. We had to do that to clear the bridge on the two-story classroom coming into it. You see a couple, it says alternate 10 in both places. Those two alternate bid 10s. It's because the mechanical equipment is specified around one manufacturer. The alternate allows us to get a bid for a different manufacturer. Steve and Tony have both said, yeah, we'd like to get two numbers, be competitive, and these are the two people we'd like to hear from. These are the companies we trust their equipment and would prefer to work on. Did I say that right, sir? So that's what alternate bid 10 is. And it's next to the two big fan rooms that are up there. Fan room next to the gym has equipment that services, there's two air handlers to service the gym, one for the wrestling room, one for the lobby and concession stand, one for the STEM lab. I think that's all. I think it's about 6 of them up there. It's full. So as we move into an area that is primarily junior, senior high school, I recognize the gym kind of goes to both schools, but the gym as a base bid has 2 wood courts and then a 3-lane synthetic track that wraps around it. If you take the alternate, it will be 3 wood. Well, actually, it will be 2 wood courts at the north end. The south court will become synthetic like the track, because the south court's probably the one that's going to work towards PE with the elementary kids, and the north court or north courts will be the ones that are used for practice and competition more often, just because of how the doors come into the space. Each of the courts are divided by a drop-down curtain, much like how I described the mechanical system at Metro North. The air handler will duck out through the wall up to the ridge of this space and down the ridge and then branch out across. So we have air distribution all through that space. The wrestling room is the one, the little box tucked in the corner there. It's just got a concrete slab for a floor and padding all around the walls, like you would expect a wrestling room to have. They're not too pretty, they do a job. We are tearing off the existing vestibules at the north end of the main gym and expanding that area, stretching it out a little bit with a new addition. That will include concessions, and then to the left of that, there are restrooms for adults and for the older kids. So from that end of the building, you can handle the new gym and the existing gyms with concessions. The only problem is that's still not where the bulk of your parking is, outside of it. So I would suggest, or I would assume at the end of the day, that east entrance that you've used for events after school will still be your primary entrance for basketball games, wrestling meets, whatever. But I can also see on a school night, the kids that drive parking up to the north of the building and coming in, not that one, because it might be a whole lot easier and to deal with. Part of the reason for doing that is the concession stand that is to the south of the main gym is being repurposed to expand the kitchen to serve the elementary school kids. So that's the only thing we needed new up there, was a new concession area. And so people will come in the south end and have to go to the north end to hit the concessions. But they'll still have restrooms at the south end. There'll just now be another set at the north end. And then finally, as we look at this area, the STEM lab fills that L shape where we're butting up against the gym and the existing building. That has a classroom, workspace for the STEM class, and also for after-school projects, i.e. robotics. There's a lot of cabinetry, a lot of shelving in there, a lot of power, and a lot of flexibility. So, and then the little hallway that previously ran north out to the shop classes, it still sits there. It'll have a set of doors on there, kind of a fire code thing. They'll just be glass doors. It's just to stop people from going that way in an emergency. But that's probably where the sign for STEM will be, is on that pair of doors. Go down that hallway. And the classroom to the left is getting converted and having some power added to it. It will become the new ag classroom. both ag and STEM will have access to a courtyard we've created in the middle so that they can use that space as well. And I think that's everything that I was planning to talk about there. So now let's jump down to the front of our addition, right up against where we're adding on to the high school. This is again kind of the shared part of the addition. So as you come from the high school heading west to the south on your left, there's a tech space. We're relocating from behind the library down into here. It puts it more centralized for junior, senior high students and for the elementary students to come get something taken care of. Art and music are for the elementary students, but those are two big spaces that could be used for anything because they're not used full-time for the elementary. Across the hall to the north, the first room on the right is Rise. They're actually moving into a space that's being designed for the type of students they get. So they can break kids apart, work with them separately, have a little more privacy as they're working with kids and doing things. The nurses clinic is the spot that's to the left of that. The elementary kids come into it from the north-south hallway on the west. Junior, senior high kids come into it from the east-west corridor on the south side. So that box in the bottom left corner, that's the nurse's fishbowl. That's where her office will be. A lot of glass in there so she can see everything going on. One of the things we're doing, we talked a little bit about the elementary school kids. They're going to see those fire doors. For the smaller kids, that might be something that says, okay, I'm not supposed to go further than this going east. For the high school kids coming this way, we wanted something to sort of tell them, okay, this is as far as you're supposed to go. We're actually going to have a different type of flooring down the hallway until you hit that line that you see there where the dark blue changes to the light blue. It'll be a vinyl flooring, but it'll resemble terrazzo. So it'll kind of extend that hallway, just a different feel. But then when it changes, hopefully that's a visual cue to the older kids. Okay, I'm not supposed to be past here unless I have a reason to. Okay, sir. So now we'll jump up to the north side of the addition and the classrooms primarily. This is upstairs. And upstairs has been designated 4th and 5th grade classrooms, 3 sections each. I don't know which side's which, so I don't know that anybody's decided that yet. They're all alike, so they can pick whichever ones they want. From that space upstairs, you get to the west end of the hallway, there's some large windows that allow you to look down into the student commons, because that's a 2-story space. And in that same area is the elevator that drops down, and the stairwell is open from the 2nd floor down to the 1st floor. So there's no doors to get in your way, you just float in. Across the hall from it, in that lighter blue area, that's the fan room there. It's got 2 big air handlers and some custodial space in it. The room immediately right of that, Mike, is a staff workroom and a small bathroom for the staff on the 2nd floor, so they don't have to go down to the 1st floor just to use a restroom or to run a copy. At the opposite end of this floor, you see student restrooms, another staircase down, some drinking fountains, and there is a smaller room right next to the stairs that's, I think we've got it labeled collaboration room or something like that. It's been tentatively designated for title reading. So that's what you're looking at on the 2nd floor. It also, you're fine. It says it here on this one too. If you move downstairs, alternate bid 9 is, I put anywhere we've got a classroom. We have an alternate to add classroom audio reinforcement. It's kind of an easy one to do. And folks, we see it more and more especially in the elementary classrooms. It just allows the teacher to talk at a standard volume and have better control of the classroom. The kids hear throughout the room better. And if you do have a student that has audio issues, they can get a hearing aid that ties into it. So it's not something you have to do or don't have to do. It'll be there as an option when we get there. Money's available and you think it's valuable. The north side of the downstairs mimics the upstairs, 3 classrooms. It'll be 3rd grade down here. The south side, the 3 rooms mimic upstairs, except The one at the east end is for special education. It's a little different in cabinetry, has a bathroom in it, has a little breakout room in case kids are having some emotional issues, but that breakout room, because it's currently used so little, can also serve as a separate if a teacher needs to be able to pull out from somewhere else. The space in the middle is currently a spare classroom. You get the occasional bubble class where you've got 4 sections of a grade level. That's your ability to flow into this and not have to move or squeeze. And then the one at the west end, we've labeled library because we've kind of struggled with libraries are changing. And this age group is one that seems to be trying to figure out what they're doing with their libraries. This allows all the books to be in there, the librarian to be in there, also allows space for breakout. Just she's used to a room that's the size of 3 classrooms. So if she wants to spread out that much and it's not lunchtime, she can break out into the student commons area and use that. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out over time, if that stays the library, if it changes and becomes something else, because you got a lot of unused space in your high school library, and that's not very far down the hallway. So this is going to be a new building until the staff gets in it and gets comfortable with how close things really are. It seems like a long way for them. So we'll see how it works out. That can always be converted into a classroom just by adding casework. So it's ready to go. Just to the west of that, obviously the student commons open to the elevator and the staircase. To the south of that is the student restrooms for the first floor. And across the hall is a serving area. Food's being brought down the hallway. So, thank you, sir. Thank you, Bill. And this is an image of the interior of that common space. Why did PE show up in this? Oh, I must have got caught in some image grab I did. The letters PE. This one still feels pretty buttoned down to me. Some of the folks who have been in the design.
This stands for Pure Elementary.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We have a young interior designer, and she's a little timid yet. Adam and I are still pushing this space. I think it's going to get a little livelier before we're done. We don't want to get too lively at this age level. We don't want to excite the kids too much. But right now, it still feels pretty bland. What will stay is the acoustic tile ceiling broken into pieces, what we call clouds. That helps with acoustics because it lets sound go up past through those openings and get caught above. A lot of light. All those windows will have motorized blinds on them, so you can go to a key operator on the wall behind you over here and lower all the blinds to dim that space. The floor is all vinyl, different colors to help segregate seating and what is a corridor out to the playground if it gets built new. See a small display case to the left there. Beyond it is an area for trash cans, tray return. And the furniture we've thrown in there is just sort of a random pattern of different things that we're using in elementaries. Dr. Kuhn and Martin and I have meetings with a couple different vendors here in the next couple weeks. Our goal with the furniture is to have a budget tied down prior to bid day. So you know how much cash to hold back in reserve to buy the furniture for this building once the day we take bids. So we got a pretty good idea already, but we'll keep drilling down on that one so everybody feels very comfortable with it. I think that's basically it. The Norse logo up on the high wall, that got thrown out as a suggestion, and the artist put that up there. He's a little intimidating for a third grader.
So be quiet when you're eating.
I told the artist, I said, if you're going to do that, just cut him off. Just have his eyes peeking over that bulkhead there, staring down at him. The bulkhead, besides breaking the space up a little bit vertically, 2 of the walls have ductwork concealed within it. so that we're blowing air down around the perimeter of this building to keep it warm and cool out there, especially on that far corner. The bulkhead that's on the left side running at us is full of hydronic piping running from the boiler room to the air handlers and down the hallway. So that bulkhead's serving a very practical purpose for us in a lot of ways. I think that's all I have on this piece. Thanks, sir. So now I'll jump to the office. That's obviously back by the front door. So a secure path to entrance, you come in the front door. Once school starts, before school starts, the kids can go straight through. After school starts, the inside set of doors in the vestibule is locked down, and everybody is then buzzed into the reception area. It's a pretty, by today's standards, this is pretty typical for a school entrance. Gives you control, and frankly, with reception, the principal, the social worker, and the conference room right behind him, plus a bathroom in this space, most visitors to this building will never get past the office unless they're coming here for some specific event or program. So. Oh, the other thing we didn't have a lot of display cases or display space in this building. That main corridor has been kept wide through most of the design. So we added all the way down the west side of that corridor, we've added display cases down through there. So there's lots of room as people come in. Most folks coming in the front door, if they're coming for anything, they're probably going back to the commons for something. So they'll walk right by. Thanks, sir. And then this is the view from the front of the building. Again, all the grays, the brick, the blue just at the entrance canopy. The only real difference here, I would say, is over the art and music rooms, we're using what we call a low slope roof, or what most folks refer to as a flat roof, simply because we're coming from the high school straight across. And then we pick up that pitched metal as we hit the entrance. And we still need to come back and have a conversation about dormitory before we all get there. We've got signs going in and numbers on it. We can figure out what those numbers are going to be. So, but we got 2 years to figure that out. So I think that's it for all of the images. I've got some dates on the very last slide. I know you folks have on your agenda tonight to approve the phase 2 vendors. That is some of the pre-work. It's some of the soil amendments to make the soils ready to hold our foundations. I remember you guys took like 5 bids.
Some of the mechanical equipment to get ordered ahead of time, so we're not in crunch time, because things are 2 years out.
I can tell you, you will see some large louvers on this building and also over at Metro North. That is because we sized the louvers to get the equipment in case the building's all built before the equipment shows up. And what happens when you see that, once the louver comes on the face, we connect whatever ductwork goes to it. If the ductwork's only this big and the louver's that big, the backside of it gets insulated and points off. So, but in the future, if you ever need to take that back out and replace it, that's your way in and out without cutting a hole in the wall. Wygand has scheduled 3 different addendums. For those of you not familiar, an addendum is a chance for us to issue additional information. So during the bidding period, contractors ask questions, and we don't just pick up the phone and answer a question for them. We hear the question, and then we have to answer it in a way that everybody bidding the project gets the same answer. So that's called an addendum. It gets issued, becomes part of the documents for construction. It's our answers to the questions. Sometimes people, for giggles, I brought this along. The small set is Metro North. The large set is Northfield. That's my set for answering questions during bidding. But a lot of those drawings come in last second before they go out to bid. So part of what I'll be doing over the next couple of weeks is going through and checking, okay, did the structural engineer catch all the duct penetrations through load-bearing walls? Did they pick, and So occasionally we pick up some of those things and they get covered by a vendor too, so the levels get in where they're supposed to be, all those kinds of things. That said, the drawing set will never be perfect. There will still be surprises during construction. It's fun this year. We just hope they're minor. I think, oh, I know what I missed on there. August 21st is the pre-bid, scheduled for, I believe, 4 in the afternoon. I kind of chuckled at their schedule. They think they're gonna hold their conference and tour both properties in an hour. It was, I'm sure somebody, they just sent it out. They'll figure it out once they start thinking about it. As of today, the drawings have not been issued to contractors. I'm not quite sure why, but I checked with them this afternoon. They've not issued the drawings yet. So I would expect they'll be on the street tomorrow. With that, folks, any questions you have for me tonight?
You said September 21st or
August 21st is the pre-bid.
August?
Yeah, bids on September 10th, that's here. And then I know it's Wygan's plan to be in front of you at your September 24th meeting to get all the vendors approved for the main project.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you. It's been a
Any
pleasure.
questions? Anybody have any questions for Dan? Well, I appreciate your time. It's a lot of work to get this ready, but we want it right though too, so I appreciate the time and effort. All right, public comment on agenda items only. All right, we'll move on to agenda items. Approval of minutes of our last meeting. Motion?
So, like,
Motion a second to approve our last meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Approval of financial reports, claims. Chris, do you have anything, or anybody have any questions for Chris on those?
Since we're speaking of construction and there's this understanding that the locker room project's running behind, or how are we paying those? I didn't see a claim tonight. We're down to the last.
Yeah. Well, so those claims come through Barton Co. to us, and then those are typically paid through the bond. That was the borrowing of the bond.
Well, the final leveraging is usually financial.
Sure.
we
I have
had
not,
talked about that.
but I have not received any claims to pay on that for well over a month.
So don't understand, we don't pay them, make sure we're not paying them until it's done. So, you know, obviously that's the goal to get it done quick.
Yeah, so they send those to Wygan approves them to make sure that the work that they said has been done. And then that claim comes to us for all of us. But like I said, we've not received one in well over a month, close to 2.
We can do payroll together. Anybody have any questions on payroll?
Yeah, there's nothing unique with payroll. The next payroll will be the last one for the 23-24 school year. And then the next one, the last one, August, will be the first pay for this school year.
We have a motion and a second for claims and payroll.
So moved.
Second. Got a motion to approve claims and payroll number 2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? financial summaries.
The first one is just the end of the month, July balances. Nothing out of the ordinary from what we've already shown or seen in our cash flow projections. Obviously, we'll see those cash flow projections at the next board meeting. Those are just the end of the month balances as the end of July for all of the funds. I believe the next thing then is just our final review of the last fund that we have to provide a budget for the DLGF, and that is our education fund. So that's the fund, again, that we use to pay all of our instructional costs, which would include staffing, which would include materials, and then in 2025 will also include textbooks, because that textbook fund is going away, and the education fund will then absorb what used to be the curriculum materials fund. And so you will see in that a couple of new line items for budgeting purposes because of that transition. And so I tried to highlight kind of what's new, what's old, in all of those. But primarily we're looking at a budget of $18 million. And so that would factor in those new expenses related to TBR, as well as any potential or possible raises for 2025 in salaries. And then any other changes that would come because of that. There really wasn't much any change except for those additional increases plus the absorption of those ESSER funded positions.
The ESSER's funded positions, they just originated during the start of the ESSER funds.
Correct. And those are positions that will be maintained now in the education fund.
Because I'm sure they've been deemed valuable.
Yes. Yeah. We had several meetings, discussions, or admin team, so forth.
Are there certain of those positions on both sides, elementaries, high schools?
Yeah, so we had,
Go ahead.
well, we had the dean of students at Southwood Elementary, and then social workers, north, added one, and then we have some paraprofessional positions.
We don't need a vote on that.
No, this is just a budget review, and then that will really conclude kind of those funds, and then we will eventually lead into a budget hearing and then a budget adoption.
So in September?
The budget hearing will be in September and the budget adoption will be in October.
All right, we'll move on to human resources. Under resignation, Cynthia Bell, a science teacher at Southwood High School, has effective August 1st. Dana Chellis, paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary. Samantha Greasley, paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary. And Ashley Harris as a bus driver on the south side. Those are all resignations. Under employment, Sarah Long as a bus driver on the north side, effective at the beginning of the year here. John Ayers, English teacher at Southwood High School. Olivia Taylor, paraprofessional at Metro North Elementary. Jennifer Nestler, library aide at Metro North Elementary. Laura Cross of COS, a paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary. Shelby Gibson, music teacher at Metro North Elementary. That's Cora Rozier, paraprofessional at Metro North Elementary. Emily Gibson, as a cook at Northfield High School. Natalie House, paraprofessional at Northfield High School. Joseph Delgado as a volunteer football coach at Northfield High School. Jennifer Lauren Deck, paraprofessional at Northfield High School. Samantha Greasley, paraprofessional at Southwood Elementary. Emily Myers, 6th grade volleyball, Sharp Creek Elementary. Kaylee Merrick is a 5th grade volleyball at Sharp Creek Elementary. And Rachel Peppard, substitute teacher at all schools. And those are all effective here at this time, begin the school year. Under retirement, Kim Weaver as a bookkeeper at Southwood Elementary. And that's effective at the end, August 31st into this month. We have a couple leaves, 180 on leave from August 26th through October 4th, and 181 on leave from November 13th through January 15th of 2025. And we have a couple transfers. Chrissy Cunningham is transferring from paraprofessional to bookkeeper at Southwood Elementary, effective on August 19th, and Allison King transferring from high school ECA treasurer at Northfield Southwood, effective. Did I say that right? Transferring from high school ECA treasurer at Northfield Southwood, effective August 7th. Yeah.
Move to accept HR. Second.
We have a motion and second to approve our HR. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes.
Can I just mention a couple of things? First of all, we want to welcome all our new employees, and also Kim Weaver. She has been with us for 28 years, and you can see that she is finishing up on August 31st this month. I was there today, and I said, well, you know, about 378 more days, August 31st of 2025, you can retire. And so she caught that, though, so she's pretty sharp. But she said that, you know, people said that when you knew that you were ready, you would be ready, and she's ready. And obviously, you've seen that transfer already, that we have someone that will take her place. I learned a long time ago that someone told me this, I do believe it, that we can all be replaced, but people cannot be replicated. And so she's done a great job for us, and we wish her well in her retirement. She's already told me what she's doing on September 1st. So lawn chair, book, outside. So,
All right, moving on to reports. Heartland Career Center.
Yeah, we had our meeting in July last month, and the highlight was NIPSCO. And they sent a contractor who was in charge of that. So we asked him lots of questions. Like the property, if we sell it, will be affected by anything, driveways and such. Why this location? Depth of pipe, will others be able to tap in? And he couldn't answer any of the questions. So, very disappointed in the way he came across. Not that, he says, well, I don't know those answers. So, we had a separate meeting with NIPSCO with a couple of area farmers that's going to be affected by this. And they brought a NIPSCO representative in. And that was a lot more informative. Yes, people will be able to tap in. Driveways and stuff over the top should not affect it. But we also found out that you've seen them along the highways where there's like 4 posts to protect it. There will be 2 of those along that property line. So, you know, just saying they're taking out a little bit out of the field, well, those are going to be permanently taken out. And why this location? That line is coming from the west, and it's a 12-inch line, and it's for 4-meter box, and it's going at the present time, they're gonna bring a 6-inch line from 13, and they're gonna meet together to keep it. And he said that will actually help Wabash, because they're running low on steadiness of the gas for parts of it. And asked him why. The new battery plant in Kokomo is sucking so much natural gas, it's messing people up out here. And green energy. Did you get it? Yeah. So, anyway, we were concerned about the depth, how deep are they gonna go, they were gonna go, they say 3 to 4, but we're concerned about tile. And they did not talk about anything else, because it wasn't at a meeting, on cost or purchase price or whatever, like that. So that'll have to come back in this month yet. But it was just interesting. And if we don't do that, they're just gonna cut it down the middle of the road.
No, there's no doubt.
Yeah, they're just gonna go where there isn't the right of way, so.
It's a county road, right, Matt? Dozens of landowners on each side of the county road.
Well, technically, I suppose, but they don't have to ask permission for that. And then it goes down to 115, that kind of jogs around over that way.
Where do they put the gas riser 4-post things that it's in the middle of the road?
It's a good question, isn't it? I should ask that.
They have a roundabout, I guess.
But, so that's what we learned. People will be able to tap into it.
So, but still, you know, again, does it landlock them for any other utilities going across that line? If they've got 3 foot deep, can you run electrical or any of that? Is that okay to go across? Because they still have to go and access their line, so can you go across that with utilities?
That's another question we should ask for.
Because if they're locking that space up, then that's, I mean, that makes it so you're landlocked again. That's my concern, is landlocking that property.
And they will actually open dig it. They're not just gonna bore it, but well, it's a 12-inch pipe, so they'll have to open it. I asked them to go so deep, they refrain from that a little bit, because they're gonna have to put a protection in there, so you can get this stuff all right. And that just adds cost. So we'll have a little more in the next month. And if you have any more questions like that, let me know so I can address them to them.
Superintendent.
Just a couple things. First of all, we started school, and this is our 5th school day. A lot of great things happening. A lot of new teachers, mainly because we had a lot of retirements this year. So lost a lot of seasoned teachers and certified staff. I have a lot of great new people, and so we want to welcome them. Of course, you've already accepted all those and all that. But I was looking at that data because tomorrow I'm going to start going around just to go to their classrooms, and we've all met them and introduced ourselves and talked and things like that, just to see how they have done for the first 5 days, the first week of school. Now, of course, you have to always look at White Cedar Senior High School. They've been in there this is about their 3rd week already, so there are differences in that. Also, just want to mention too, there's just a lot going on. That's another thing as far as it being a very, very good start. A lot of construction going on, so that obviously makes people to be more flexible about different things, and things have worked out really well. I know it's sometimes frustrating when we talked about locker rooms and things like that, but also then north, when there's different things going on. I know the chiller got completed, and it might have been a little warm there a couple of days, but they have that all up and running. We appreciate maintenance there was a situation at Shark Creek Elementary with some HVAC system there, and that's been corrected, and so you always have those different things that happen. Of course, we have the tennis courts. They may even start the first layer, I think, maybe even this week, depending if we get the rains or not at the end of the week here. The demo of the new construction, that's really worked out well as far as drop off and as far as the buses and things like that. There were a lot of questions that we had, but that's been great. Today, they had to move the fence a little bit more towards the south, but that still worked out fine. We had all 13 buses from nose to tail go in there, and that's really, really working well. And then, of course, the parking lot at Northfield, staff's been very appreciative of that. The digital signs, Northfield is up and running. Southwood, they're doing the electrical this week, so we should have that up pretty soon too. So just a lot going on, but people have been very good about being flexible and understanding that we have a lot of progress going on. And so that's neat to see that we have all of that. So a lot of great things happening. We'll continue to keep things moving. So appreciate everybody that's involved with that, because there's a lot of people involved and make this all work.
Great, thanks, Mike.
Great.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Kefauver shared about the GPS diploma at a previous meeting. I just want to give you an update that the several colleges in the state of Indiana wrote letters then that became public. And I think they were expressing some frustration about not being included in the process for the new diploma and maybe some concerns about what the new diploma said. And so you can get online and find them. Obviously, IU, Purdue would be the quick ones to grab, but you can find the letters. I would just say basically, kind of like Dana talks about the high level stuff with the building, the diploma ideas are still very high level. They're trying really hard to create more flexibility for kids to go straight into career for kids that want to do that, especially CTE. And so there's a lot of really good things happening with that. I think their first shot really diminished the kids that wanted to go to a four-year college. And so that's why you hear some concern from IU and Purdue. And so Purdue's, actually, it's kind of funny if you read it. IU in their letter references themselves as the premier university in Indiana. And of course, it's like they get their jabs in their letters. But Purdue pretty much said the new diplomas would not meet their requirements. And so, in other words, if you got that diploma, you wouldn't meet the requirements to get into Purdue. And so, it's still really early and it's high level. We're trying our best to keep abreast of it, but things are going to change so much with that. So I just want to let you know the colleges have spoken. And, I don't think they're pleased with where it's at, and I think they're going to look to maybe add a seal, like an enrollment-ready seal that would require you to take additional classes if you're looking to go to a Purdue or to an IU or Butler, and that way maintain that while still giving more flexibility to those students that are just going to go right in the workforce and have a good career that way. So.
If they're not careful, excuse me, they're going to divide the student stream too early on. Yeah, that's my observation.
I think that's a very good observation, because basically they're trying to give you your sophomores now, or people then they're going to make that decision. It's going to be a really wide track between the career people and college level.
And I don't like that, okay, say that you decided when you're a sophomore, and you went into the work, on that workforce, they decided, maybe that's not what I want to do. Can they catch up? Are they so far behind that they're not going to be able to catch up? And
yeah, you're exactly right. That's been a concern that's been brought up several times. Even with the current plan, we have kids that don't do the academic honors, they just do the honors. Well, even that difference might be the difference of getting into a Purdue or IU. And so we've had several students that were like, I'm not going to go to Purdue, I'm just going to go to this school. And then at the last minute, like, man, I really want to go. Well, now you have to take summer classes to try to catch up. So it's nice. It's nice to give kids as much opportunity as you can for as long as you can, because they're just, to ask a 15-year-old to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life, or at least pigeonhole yourself, it's not best practice. I mean, we all make those changes, and at 15, you think you know something until you're 17, and then you know something else. And by 18, it's changed again. And so, so we'll see. We'll see where that lands. Again, sticking with the construction theme that's here, it's still really high level. You're going to hear a lot of this coming up later this fall, winter, as they're trying to push the rules through.
all right, take that. Under new business, we have a public hearing for formal bargaining.
So basically, there's nothing, so by Indiana code, we are to open up public hearing for formal bargaining, because before we do formal bargaining, we have to have this opportunity. We've done this for probably 4 or 5 years now as far as the Indiana code. And so you just open it up for any comments about formal bargaining, and then we close it after give everybody a chance to talk about that.
All right. I guess we'll open up this hearing for formal bargaining. Open it up for comments, or
Can't ask questions, but I can't answer.
if there is none, we will close that.
What is formal bargaining?
Okay.
There you go, very good
Good
question.
question.
So before formal bargaining is with collective bargaining with the Teachers Association. It was put in, like I said, several years ago that we have, you can go, I'm not trying to scare you off, but we've never had anybody really say anything, but we have a great working relationship with our Teachers Association. We typically have Dr. Kuhn, myself, also school board president, along with their association members on their team, work together, and we've had really good success over the last 6-7 years. So that doesn't always happen in other places, and so there might be more public hearing
Concern.
about that. Yeah,
Concerns
concern,
about it.
so, but that's what that is.
All right.
It's never a nice question, is it?
Now we all know. All right, if there's no other questions, we will close that hearing. Move on to the next. Recommendation to approve the adjunct teacher position and permits for 24-25 school year.
I can, go ahead. So, law changed a few years ago that allowed school districts to allow certain staff to fall under the adjunct teacher permit, which allows us then to count those teachers towards our 62% rule in Indiana. As far as the dollars that we receive, 62% of it is supposed to go to teacher salary and benefits. And so we have a handful of staff that are classified staff positions. They don't have a teacher's license. They don't necessarily maybe even have a teaching degree or a bachelor's degree or anything like that, but they do carry some instructional job functions with their position. And so to do this, then we have to create a permit for them every year for the position that they will be maintaining. And so all of these are the same positions that we approved last year, except for maybe a few different names because those are new people in those positions. And so the one position, then we can go ahead and approve it, but it's still in the works, is the Spanish position at Southwood High School.
And since we had talked about this earlier too, so by Indiana code, they're not considered a teacher. And also then they would not be a part of the collective bargaining, formal bargaining that we talked about here, so. And there's stipulations with, like Dr. Kuhn said, that we would be a part of that, and some degrees and some degrees you can, like special education. So.
Any questions on that? Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the adjunct teacher positions and permits for 24-25 school year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Recommendation to approve bid phase number 2 vendors.
So, yeah, so if you go to that page there, that kind of lays it out there. They have it organized very nicely for you and us. We've already went through the bid phase 1 approval process, and that shows you the dollar amount that was approved in that column. And then we recently received bids for phase 2, which are outlined there. Our recommendations outlined there in that second column, leading to the total dollar amount there at the bottom, and then over to the far right just gives you what that total amount is up to date as far as the 2 bid phases are concerned. Most of these bid phase two, like we said, were for equipment things that just needed to be purchased so that they were hopefully here in time of construction. Whereas the aggregate piers, which Dana mentioned earlier, was the process in getting the groundwork ready and stabilized for the actual building on. So that would be something that would come sooner than later, whereas these other parts of the packages in that phase will be paid out at a later date. So I feel confident that we still maintain a operation balance that can cover some of these costs up until we receive our actual bond monies.
All right,
I'll move that we approve of bid phase number 2 vendor.
Second.
all right, we got a motion and a second to approve the bid phase number 2 vendors, which are listed there in front of you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All any opposed? All right, motion passes. Recommendation to approve the corporate authorization resolution.
Since the retirement of Kim and her new replacement, the bank requires us to do a resolution that would actually remove Kim and add the new person on there, and the other signees of any checks. Every check that goes out of this corporation requires 2 signatures, and so that is usually at the school level, the principal, the bookkeeper, and myself. So that's what that resolution is for.
Motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the corporate authorization resolution. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation to appoint David Dowd to the Rowan Library of Trustee for a term ending September 15th, 2027. Is that a replacement, right?
Yes, I believe so. That was in there, so. As a school board, we do that with all the other public libraries in our district, so just ask that you would approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to appoint David Dowd as the Rowan Library of Trustee for the term ending September 15th, 2027. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Any unfinished business? Board policy? Any public comment?
Yeah, we have something that we'd like to bring to the board. First, I want to thank you guys for what you guys do. Seeing it kind of from this side, you don't really know kind of what happens until you're here. And with the new school that's going in, or the addition to it, it's really impressive. And it's one of the reasons why our team and I chose to send our kids to MSD. But that being said, I did prepare something I wanted to say. So good evening, my name is Travis James. I'm here with my wife, Martina. We're both graduates of Northfield and have 2 young sons, Garrett, who is 6, and Drew is 3. Right after we got married in 2016, we moved to Louisville for me to finish college. We spent the last 7 years there. In the middle of last year, we felt the pull to move back to the Wabash area for a few different reasons. Ailing grandparents being one of them, to be closer to family, and also give our children the opportunity to grow up in the same community that we did. We moved back in November of 2013 and purchased a home on 850 North. Yeah.
Not 13,
23,
23.
sorry. We just moved back. Sorry. A major decision we knew that was in store was where we were going to send our kids. We know that we are just outside of the MSD school district and are in Manchester or Chester townships. Being Northfield grads, we wanted to give MSD a fair shake when interviewing schools. During the quick interview process, we were informed that MSD providing transportation to our house shouldn't be an issue. But it was not doable in this current school year. We were told to contact central office transportation coordinator to give a heads up for the 2024-2025 school year. I did this in April, in June, and the beginning of August, all in person, and was told that this would not be an issue. Then again, right before school started last week, during my last visit in August, I was told that told by the transportation coordinator that it would be unlikely that a bus would be sent to our house. But they were having a route planning meeting on Friday. She would see what they could do. Friday passed and we didn't hear anything. Monday passed and we didn't hear anything. So I called the central office on Tuesday morning and spoke with the transportation coordinator to see what was going on since school was starting the next day, and we hadn't heard from anyone. The transportation coordinator informed us it would be impossible for a bus to come to our house. She said an option would be for us to meet at a pre-designated location inside the district. She said that she would call us back with more details regarding this option. I asked her to call my wife to discuss these further and provided her with her phone number. Tuesday afternoon came, the 6th, which was the day before school started. My wife received a phone call from the bus driver. The bus driver told her that she was not permitted to go north of 700 on the east side of State Road 13, but she had students on that current bus route that we could potentially meet at their house. My wife thanked her for the information, but declined, citing that it wouldn't make much sense for us to drive to another student's house and wait for a bus that may or may not be on time. It would make more sense for us to just continue to drive our son to school. My wife was understandably upset, one, because we were under the impression that transportation at our home would not be an issue, and it was mere hours before school started. Upon the transportation's director informing us that it would be impossible for the bus to come to our home on Tuesday morning, my wife sent an email to the superintendent explaining what I have explained to you and voicing her opinion on the matter, as well as asking for his input on the situation. My wife never received a response from the superintendent or transportation coordinator regarding this matter. We understand that you guys are busy as school is starting up, but that is why we are here today. Per MSD's of Wabash County School Board's policy found on the MSDWC.org website, section 1020, a lot of jargon, lays out the geographical area which each board member represents. The Northeast District, as quoted below, follows the area bounded on the north side of State Road 16 and on the west side of the Wabash-Huntington County lines, and on the south by State Road 124, which might be a typo, it might be Highway 24, and on the west side by State Road 13. There are multiple families like us that fall outside of these boundaries that are currently being picked up at their homes by buses. For example, the student I mentioned before earlier was offered for us as a bus stop option is on the 1800 block of 700 North, which is outside of the school district. The boundary above is supposed to be the north side of State Road 16. So my question is to you, why was this exception made? Another example is multiple stops inside of the city of Wabash and in Huntington County. So my question is again, why were these exceptions made? Why is it impossible for a bus to come to our stop that is 1.5 miles outside of the district boundary? Our kids attending MSD is very important to us, but taking our children to and from school is not sustainable long-term, as my wife stays home right now to watch our 3-year-old. So we understand, it might not be in the cards right now, but if we are to keep our kids at MSD, my wife eventually wants to go back to work. So we're gonna need a bus at some point. That's not this year. It would be nice to have one this year. But we were just kind of looking for an answer.
And I will say that I did receive an email. I thought, and I did not do that, so I did not email you back, but I know that there was lots of conversations here. We talked about that, and so it was, and I shouldn't assume, but I believe that that was taken care of. There was some things that talked about back and forth as far as giving some options, and then you decided to go ahead and transport. And so there's some things that we can meet afterwards too, because there's a lot of things that you brought up that we can look at too, but also there's a lot of situations so that we can talk about, individually and talk. We just do that. So.
Okay. Yeah, we would appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I understand this because it's all new to me. You're only a mile and a half outside the legal district, but
Yeah,
then
so we live on 850 North, a mile east, well, it's 3/4 of a mile east of Highway 13. So Chester Township goes from 16, the corner of 16 and 13 up into Manchester. I believe it's Noble that goes all the way to 800. So on the other side of 13, Paw Township goes all the way to 800.
And then Paw and then Pleasant is on the west side of 13, yeah.
So it's a mile and a half either way, if you go south or if you go out to 13 and then down to 800, where 800 hits 13 on the west side of the road. And like I was talking to my wife, we understand, out of district's out of district. And if that's the policy, that's the policy. And then that's on us. But we know that they go north to 700 North, which is out of district right now to pick up kids. So just kind of.
So say that again, because I'm gonna look at it as,
Yeah,
my
so-
understanding is that we don't do that, and so.
So like I said, there's a stop on 700 North.
And it's in the 1800 East block, so almost
What
2
you
miles.
just tell them the name,
Water, lots of water. They go 700 north and about,
It's east of the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Half a mile down there on 700 North, which is out of, not orange.
so that's about the same distance
And
from,
we used to go
13.
Right.
Right before we.
Yes.
yeah.
you're just right north of Poets where you're at.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we live
obviously,
right behind Poet, the Grossman's farm to the south, and we have Hopper's farming right beside us to the east.
well,
And you can say afterwards, we'll talk.
Yeah, that's fine.
I would say we'll address it, with Mike and Melissa. I do know that obviously we want you at the school and how we can make it work out best, but it makes it hard, number one, I know Melissa is just bus drivers are hard to get. And it's one of those things that you spread yourself so thin, just going further and further out, it makes it harder and harder to get all the routes done. And, obviously we have an area for a reason, we don't send our buses all the way to Manchester or to Huntington or, some school districts do that, but, for money wise, it doesn't make sense to run buses all over, Creation, just, it's not practical, but.
Because right now, we had one that resigned, a bus driver resigned right before school because she moved, and so we don't even have we're still working on getting a full-time route driver there too, so there's lots of things that are involved with that, but, I understand.
We definitely appreciate you and.
I want us to be consistent with the school district on this matter, because I'm in clear in the southeast corner, and I've told a number of people that county line is no problem. We'll drift over there a mile or two and get you where you need to be. So I need to know the policy and be consistent, or if we're gonna stay within the school boundary or not.
Obviously, we're in the business of, no one's within a school, there's no school boundaries anymore, so it's one of those things that, I know we have to be aggressive and flexible in some of these things also, so I think it's appropriate for us to discuss it.
Sure. And that's just kind of what we were looking for. So we appreciate you guys listening to us.
But I agree with Kevin that we need to be consistent and everybody on the board needs to be in agreement with what we would like to have happen. Because we want every kid to be treated the same way, not thinking that we're showing favoritism because this person knows someone. But if you'd like the bus driving job,
I knew it was coming.
you'd have the bus at home.
Yeah, start her out.
Tracy Snyder has been working on her for a little while now, so.
Okay. Tracy did it for several years.
Yeah.
So yes, that would be a good start.
She could also work.
Another
I
good
hear
option.
you, I hear you.
Like that, the route would definitely start there.
Oh, I can't pick him up tomorrow, sorry. I'm just kidding.
Any other comments? Any items from school board members? All right. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Yep, by 9 o'clock.